Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today our topic is, will the Suitcase Nukes be detonated yet in 2023, this year? Now I'm going to start with a big fat disclaimer, kind of an explanation for this. As Acts 16:16 says, "And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel, possessed with a spirit of divination, met us, which brought our masters much gain by soothsaying." So she was accurately being able to see into the spirit. Paul got irritated when she said, "These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show us the way of salvation." So he turns and he says, "I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And our masters saw that the hope of their gain was gone. But the point is, the devil can also see into the future. Now, I can tell you right up front, Leslie would tell me, as a prophet of God, she would tell me absolutely have nothing to do with this guy. Well, I'm not having anything to do with this guy. I'm only taking it not for new information, but a confirmation for what the real prophets of God have already told us. So, this comes to us, the headline is multiple remote viewers, that's people that are using divination. Multiple remote viewers warn of world-changing events at year's end. They're saying this is coming the latter part of the year. That's not me saying it, they are saying it. In the article it says, nearly all humans have a certain degree of psychic awareness, and some of us become acutely aware of it. And the term remote viewing was coined by the U.S. Department of Defense when they began training people in this field. It is the art of viewing an unknown target at any distance with the mind's eye. They look for redundant data. In other words, there's 6 of them. And if one person gets something, they discount it. And if 2 people get it, then they say, okay, maybe there's something to it. But in this case, they say if 3, then yes, we listen. But they're saying in this case, apparently all 6 of them have been getting confirmations of what we have been told since 2010. Let's go on. Being successful at predicting the Panama Canal, the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam in Ukraine, the Halloween stampede in South Korea, police violence at the Canadian trucker protest, as they claim as the things where they've been accurate. The Future Forecasting Group, I do not recommend you go check them out, assigned the target of a next financial crisis. So they were asked to look into the future about a financial crisis. And they used a double-blind protocol, so they didn't know what they were looking at. But the viewers were all 6 of them, distracted by overpowering images of a catastrophic event, which we already know about. They all saw the same thing. All 6 of them saw the same thing. Massive explosions with multiple points of impact, small particles, debris falling from the sky, people sick with cesium, I hope you heard that, which is the most dangerous of all radioactive isotopes, used in dirty bomb scenarios. They saw police checkpoints, people seeking shelter underground, and an exodus of sad-looking people. I know. You're saying, man, that sounds like Dana Coverstone. It was more than just Dana Coverstone. We got that from 3 or 4 different people. If I took the time to research, it's probably more like 6 or 7. And that's the reason I'm looking at this not as new information, not listening to the wrong spirit, but I'm saying we've got 6 people that are saying the same thing. Now, see, a lot of people don't listen to the prophets. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, God's prophets. God doesn't have prophets. But maybe some people that won't listen to God's prophets will listen to these guys. We don't listen to these guys. We listen to God's prophets. But in this case, they're confirming what God's prophets have been saying. Let's go on. It says, based upon this, Cliff High, that's one of the guys' names, sees this event happening near the end of this year. In other words, as in 2023. Now, I'm going to show you something Coverstone says that says, maybe they're right. Okay, let's go on. So this is some of the notes. So when they see these things, they write these notes. Now, I'm going to put their writing, but I've got my words here so I can read it. The notion is that calcium in the bone is also affected or attracts some element, cesium. Radioisotope brief. This is from the CDC. I looked up. So what is cesium? Cesium-137 looks like white powder. Remember that because Coverstone said exactly those same words. Looks like a white powder and may glow from nuclear accidents or atomic bomb explosions, and it cannot be seen and will present in dust and debris from fallout. In other words, when it's in a nuclear explosion, you can't see it. It's already mixed up into the fallout that naturally falls anyway. External exposure to large amounts of CS-137 can cause burns, acute radiation sickness, and even death. And exposure to CS-137 can also increase the risk of cancer. And they're saying that specifically, I mean, what are the chances? What are the chances that they can see cesium? Okay, there's more. This is one of the other drawings. Like a police checkpoint, they're seeing a barricade, unruly people blocked. Long column of sad-looking people carrying bags, look dejected. No vaccines, wasn't over vaccines. Smoke in the distance, relocating, all walking. Coverstone said the same thing. Feels like metal flakes dropping through the air, like snow, like chaff. Weather control. Again, Coverstone said exactly the same thing. Now, I need to give you a quick update on Berkey. Berkey still apparently is going to be no more. Yes, they are fighting it, but at this point, we have to say there's not going to be any more Berkey. Prophecy Club is now 0 in stock. We have placed another order. We've got 20 more Berkey Royals on the way and 4 more extra filters. And you do not want to go buying some Chinese knockoffs because then that'll get you in trouble. Anyway, we've got 20 more Berkey Royals on the way, but it'll take 3 to 5 weeks to get them in. You can go ahead and place your order for them. We've got our money, however, tied up in pre-orders, okay? So until they actually arrive and we can start clearing credit cards, we're out of money. And that's where you come in to help your brothers and sisters. We want to buy some more. Berkey still has them. They're not out. But we're out of money to buy some more. So what I'm asking people to do is if God has blessed you and you can help us, $5,000 or $10,000, whatever you can help us, even, $50 or $100, right now it would be a really good thing because we need to buy more Berkeys for our other brothers and sisters that are going to need them. I think that they're attacking Berkey because they know it can filter out things like viruses and cesium. Let's go on. Okay, so what another one described he saw is this and this. Does that look familiar? An energy event impacts land, shock waves, explosive, generates heat impact, telling trucks, get out. Something happens in a night in the city. Lights, but some areas are dark. Popping sounds, yelling, unrest, movement. Again, sounds like a lot of the dreams we've been getting. Mechanical motion gears is what they saw. And also it looks like a button to push. Object on display that people observe. This is just what another guy saw, okay? Something in a container. I'm going to show you, Coverstone said exactly that. Something about it seems energetic or golden in color. I don't know if it's radioactive. Oh, by the way, cesium, the picture I saw was golden in color. Seems energetic or golden in color. I don't know if it's radioactive or just an active electronic device. A delivery and the people bringing it. These guys are sitting with it like they're part of the delivery. And that's what he saw. Okay, in other words, it was some kind of device inside of a box. Manipulation or control of small particles, even nanotech, inside of the grid. Reminds me of nanodust being excited inside of this grid system for experimental purposes only, if you see the plane that is spraying stuff. So maybe they're hitting us more than with just suitcase nukes. Future event, very social. Millions of people involved. Movement everywhere. Moving dispersed. Shock, surprise, caught off guard. Remember, Michael Boldea said that it was coming from an unusual place that no one expected. Nighttime. police checkpoint, barrier, flashing lights, unruly people, someone blowing a bullhorn. Feels like underground, like a subway. In other words, like people going underground, like Coverstone said. They all saw the same thing. Massive explosions with multiple points of impact, small particles and debris falling from the sky. People sick with cesium, which is the most dangerous of all of the radioactive isotopes used in dirty bomb scenarios. How do you get more specific than that? They saw police checkpoints, people seeking shelter underground, and an exodus of sad-looking people. So, if you have people that are friends that don't believe in God's prophets, but they will listen to some remote viewing person, here you go. Send it to them. They should listen to this, because that didn't come from prophets. Now, let's go to what the prophets say. As you recall, I've read this several times. August 24th, 2020, Dana Coverstone. I saw a calendar. It was turned to the month of November. So as I'm recording this is September 21. Would you call November the latter part of the year? Because that's what they were told, or they saw, the latter part of the year. Maybe it wasn't meant for 2020. Maybe it was meant for 2023. I saw the month of November and had shadows flickering all over it. I first saw a light in the sky, a very large, bright light, then darkness. Why darkness? Because it's nuclear and has EMP pulse, and it fries all the computer chips, which is why you want to get one of these. A very bright light, then darkness. I began to make out through the dawn's haze and fog that many Americans were in emergency shelters. Why do you go to an emergency shelter? It's not a storm. This is a nuclear event. There seemed to be snow on the ground, and it was dirty and gray, almost like ash. Exactly what cesium, exactly what nuclear fallout looks like. There were people huddled together and shivering. Individuals were lying on cots, suitcases, all over the place, desperate looks on the faces of most everyone. There were encouragers in the crowd, that's us, all wearing crosses, and they stood out emotionally from everyone else because they had hope. Why do we have hope? Because we know this is coming. We're looking forward to the fact that finally some of these knuckleheads, hardheads, stiff necks will finally start deciding it's time to receive Jesus. And we want to be there, pointing them away. They had smiles on their faces. They were checking on people and trying to show patience and kindness. But they were at times met with anger and told to go away. But the encouragers just kept doing what they were doing. Despite the manifested upset of several in shelters, some businesses were shuttered in big cities. Now, I'm going to pause for a second. What do you suppose is going to happen when you have sent this out to your friends, neighbors, relatives, church friends, work friends, to your pastors, and they made fun of you? Maybe they deleted you off of their friends list. But all of a sudden, by the end of the year, or even into next year, I mean, we've got 33 prophecies saying Suitcase Nukes is going to hit us. That is the most prophecies I have for any event that I've ever had. 33 different prophecies that say Suitcase Nukes are going to hit us. So when it happens, all of a sudden they're going to start listening to you. This is going to give you the chance to point a lot of people to Jesus. I saw gas stations that looked as if they had just been walked away from. Why? Because the computers don't work. The gasoline won't pump. There's no lights. There's no electricity. They can't get out of the ground. They can't take money for it unless, of course, you have gold and silver, which I'd send you to cornerstoneassetmetals.com to get that. I saw gas stations that looked as if they'd just been walked away from. I saw headlines that read shock and awe in the U.S., as well as one that read U.S. steps in to help host nation. Why? Well, prophecies say 35 suitcase nukes have been sneaked or secreted or hidden in America. There was a large amount of quiet over the country, almost as if it had not awakened fully from a bad dream. The nation was fitful and suspicious and leery of what was coming next, very hesitant. The white figure appeared and said, "Remain braced, as this calm comes before a gathering storm." In other words, this is not the end. This is just the beginning of the storm. Before a gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding. In other words, when these suitcase nukes hit America, we really won't ever recover from it. Then it says it again. Same angel, same words again the second time. Remain braced, as this calm comes before a gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding. So one of the things I recommend you do, go to empshield.com, get yourself one of these devices. If you put in the promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your prophecy club. Now let's go to the next one. This is only 4 days later. So Dana gets another dream. I saw long food lines. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours, standing in line, not in cars. Why weren't they in cars? Because some of the cars wouldn't even open because they have one of those electronic fobs that opens the car door. They can't even open the car doors. And if they could, people that can get in, the car will start. Matter of fact, my understanding is any car made after 1985, unless you've done some kind of working on it, it won't start. I mean, these days, there's hundreds of computer chips in a car. Anyway, let's go on. I saw ships and ports on both the east and west coast, and they were just sitting idle. There was nothing moving at sea. I saw a headline that said, Baltic Dry Index is dead. Yep, 35 suitcase nukes have gone off all across America, and no one needs to bring any more merchandise to America. They said that nothing was moving in trade around the world. I saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters or living quarters. Kind of like after the Hurricane Katrina and the people sheltered in the football stadiums. The businesses in those shopping malls were all shut down, closed. I saw people on cots. I saw food outreaches. I saw people who were misplaced. This was not like a homeless shelter. This was like something really, really bad had happened. And people were in shelters. I continued to see shuttered properties. I saw people in homes wearing coats with closed curtains. That kind of confirms we're talking about it in the wintertime, and that could be very well latter part of this year, early part of next year. Now, I'm not setting a date, but I am saying, are you ready? And maybe people won't listen to the prophets. Maybe they'll listen to these viewer guys, okay? That has been a consistent vision. People inside their homes looking out at what's going on. When I look at people looking out their curtains, I see more of this dark, gray, snow-like stuff on the road. Well, now we know what it is. It's fallout, filled with cesium, that can burn you, make you sick, give you cancer. I see more of this dark, gray, snow-like stuff on the road. It wasn't white, pure snow like after the first fresh snowfall. Then I saw headlines reading, nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline said, Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Why? Because the suitcase nukes were snuck into America back in the 1980s. Matter of fact, if you go to watchprophecyclub.com and then look up Russians' secret weapon to defeat America. No, excuse me, that's the wrong one. Russian defector warns America. Russian defector warns America. The name is Stanislav Lunev. Stanislav Lunev. He came and spoke at the Prophecy Club way back in 1998. He said he was part of a team, a Russian team. He's a Russian defector, okay? Had lunch with him, okay? He said that he was part of a team sent over from Russia looking for places to hide these suitcase nuclear bombs. Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness because they've been here since the 1980s. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada. It stretched north into Canada, but it was not everywhere. I saw America with lights flickering, which, by the way, I think that's the reason God laid on my heart to get solar panels. And by the way, solar panels are not any good if you don't have a way to store it. So again, I recommend you go to solarsurge.net, net, solarsurge.net. Joe Ordia, a good friend of mine, can help you get you the right solar system. And what you want to do is tell him, no, I want a solar system for off-grid. In other words, the electricity goes down and maybe it never comes on again. And if it does come on, it's going to be probably a couple of years before it comes back on after that. So if you want to have electricity, solarsurge.net. I warned you, okay? Nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline, Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada, some of it was north into Canada, but it was not everywhere. I saw America with lights flickering. It was almost like the whole country outlining the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. I saw vultures with food hanging out of their mouth. These vultures were heavy and fat with rotting food hanging out of their mouths. Why? I'll tell you why, because the electricity went off. Because, look, it may be that just 2 or 3 suitcase nukes, and there's not 2 or 3, there's 35 of them, but just 2 or 3 of them hit several different places, and nationwide electrical grid goes down, and it may be down for months, maybe years, maybe never comes back. So what does that mean? That means that everybody says, oh no, we got all this food in the refrigerator and the freezers. So we start eating it. And we gorge ourselves for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. But at some point, it goes to room temperature and it starts to spoil and people thaw it out. And that's the reason it says I saw vultures with food hanging out of the mouth, because they didn't have electricity to keep their refrigerators going, to keep their food from rotting. I hope you're listening. Again, maybe they want to listen to prophets, maybe they listen to these viewer guys, okay? I saw depression on the creature with a face mask and a smile, but with choking people, pushing them down to the ground. Then, now listen to this part. Then I saw the St. Louis Arch. I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch wearing very expensive business suits and expensive watches. At their feet were large briefcases that reminded me of nuclear suitcases. I didn't say it. He said it. And I talked to him. I said, do you know that there are suitcase nukes in America? He didn't know. God was telling him something he didn't know. He didn't understand about it. I'm going to read that again. So these wealthy people at the St. Louis Arch, which just happens to be the center of the country, there were these large suitcases that reminded me of nuclear suitcases. Suddenly, all of the alarms went off. They grabbed their briefcases, jumped into the black SUVs, and drove off in all directions. Why? My guess is, and I don't know this for sure, my guess is that at least some, maybe even all of those suitcase nukes are stored in St. Louis, near the Arch. Maybe in the Arch, who knows? I don't know. And so they all meet there. And then their alarms goes off that says, okay, now it is time to go out and set them. And that explains what one guy says. He saw delivery people setting and watching it. Okay, in other words, waiting for the moment to set it off. Now, further confirmation. Tracy Meeks, this is daughter of Jason Meeks, both of which have been through Leslie's School of the Prophets and are ordained prophets by Leslie. I was in my childhood neighborhood. People were walking as normal. I saw an airport control tower in the distance and a huge flash filled the sky. Everything in all directions went dark. No electricity anywhere. SolarSurge.net. People started panic running. I said aloud, this must be the EMP blast, and it took out all electronics. What does it take? What does it take for us to believe that God is trying to warn us? Several people ran into a house for shelter. There were men, women, and children with me. After a while, we ventured out, and we finally reached a house that had electricity. The scene changed, then to my childhood home. A security officer was standing on top of the garage. A group of people that were running, trying to escape. The thought came to me, that must be the mass arrests. See, and I think I've got it on here today. I believe it was Jason Meeks saw that when the arrests take place, they set the suitcase nukes go off. Now, I've also talked about I do not know, and God has not told me, but my guess is The event that will start the internal revolution is when they do drag Donald Trump into one of these 4 places where he has been indicted, and they actually find him guilty, slap handcuffs on him, and put him in jail. And at that point, the Marines say, we've had enough. And Trump probably winks, and they decide it's time to do the internal revolution. So I've been telling people this internal revolution is coming since 1987. They won't believe me. Pastors don't invite me in to speak. They don't have anything to do with that message or me. But when the internal revolution starts, if you've been telling people, then you will have their attention. All right, let's go on to the next one. Jason Meeks. I was driving, had a full tank of gas. I drove to the ATM to get cash, but it wouldn't work. The internet was down. There was electricity, but no computers were working. I went home to get cash. I drove back to the gas station. The cashier told me she couldn't sell me anything, even for cash, because the internet was down and her computer would not work. She explained the gas pumps and the gas register were all tied into the internet and that there was no way for her to even take cash. The teller drawer would not even open. Well, guess what one of the plans is? When they start the internal revolution, they're going to take the internet down. Okay, that fits. Let's go on to the next one. The dream starts out. We stopped at an ATM machine to get some cash out for the toll road. I put in my card, got $20, ended transaction. But before I pulled off, I realized I didn't get enough money. So I put the card back in, got another $20, but now the fee had jumped to $42 for just the ATM fee, which is usually $1 or $2. The transactions were within seconds of each other. What happened? Maybe it was the internal revolution. As we drove back home, we stopped at a major bank. The television screens were showing massive arrests taking place. An alert went out on my cell phone that DJT was assuming control. Notice it didn't say anything about an election. Did you catch that? Look at it. That's important. An alert went out on my cell phone. That's an EBS message, Emergency Broadcast System, assuming control as the new president. I expected people to be rioting and looting, but instead they were happy and celebrating in the streets, almost like VJ Day after World War II. In the dream, a man came to me and started crying, saying all of his evil bosses had been arrested and rounded up, telling me he was now in charge of the bank. He was a Christian and had been praying for their arrest for many years. As people took to the streets in victory and celebration, we joined in. We jumped on the back of a fire truck to catch a ride in the parade because the streets were so full you couldn't even walk. Everything was amazing. Then I heard an explosion. A suitcase nuke had been detonated within the city. I didn't realize the explosion. I didn't see the explosion, but I saw the shockwave from it. We jumped off the truck, ran into the restaurant, jumped behind the bar for protection from the blast, but we were far enough away that no mass nuclear effect hit us, just broken windows and glasses. More like an earthquake. Then an alert came over my cell phone saying, nuclear emergency, are you listening? Nuclear emergency. Your cell phones don't work. Your electricity is off. Do you have food? Do you have water? My cell phone saying, nuclear emergency, shelter in place. We are scared but alive. In an emergency, you know what the number one cause of death is, surprisingly? It's drinking contaminated water. It kills a lot of people. And for that, I'd recommend you go to prophecyclub.com and get yourself an order for the last 20 Berkeys and probably some extra water filters. Also, very high on the list is starving. Not only not food, but eating contaminated food that is rotten, and that also kills people. And for that, I'd recommend you go to josephskitchen.com. Go now, because they can get the shipment out like in 24 hours. And for an electrical outage, I'd recommend you have some gold and silver. And for that, I'll send you to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. If you want your car to start, your computers to work, then I'll send you to empshield.com. Here it is, empshield.com. Promo code prophecy gets you a $50 discount. And also, if you want solar, I'd recommend you go to solarsurge.net. Solarsurge.net. If you want to have electricity when the electricity goes out, I have it, I love it. Electricity goes out, I won't even know it. So what is an EMP Shield device? It's a device you can put on your car and your house that in an EMP attack is supposed to stop the attack. And if you go to empshield.com and if you use the promo code prophecy, they give you a $50 discount. They also have videos up there, shows you how to install it on your car and your house and everything, and it's not difficult at all. I've got one of them right here. Red goes to red, black goes to black, green goes to the car, body of your car, and you just peel it off the back, stick it under there. You've got another device that goes on your house. So not complicated. Take you about 10 minutes to put them in. So empshield.com, promo code is prophecy. I thought this was real interesting. These two calves, were born, one the day before and one on September 25th of 2014, which just happens to be a Shemitah. A Shemitah means 7, like 2 means, or a couple means 2, or a dozen means 12. In Hebrew, Shemitah means 7. And so I believe the prophecy is saying that it started 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. 7 years of plenty because the black and white cow has a perfect 7 on his forehead. The red cow has a scribbled 7 on his forehead. What are the chances both those cows are born within 24 hours and released to the public on the same day? I think it's of God saying 7 years of plenty started in 2014 and 7 years of famine started in 2021 and concludes to 2028. That's still in the ballpark. A lot of people think it's the tribulation. Now, that would mean that we are at this point in a famine. So what do? You do what Joseph did. The world lived off of bread. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread. The people cried to Pharaoh for bread. That's wheat. So the world lived off of wheat for 7 years, and I'm going to recommend you do the same thing. We have had 150 food sources destroyed the last 18 months. No arrests, we've had train derailments, China stopped container ships, threatening to stop all of them, Russia attacked Ukraine, breadbasket. I mean, our food is under attack. Klaus Schwab says you will own nothing but be happy. They're in the process of taking everything we own. This is a loaf of bread I actually cooked. I actually cooked this. And as a matter of fact, I've already had a slice of bread this morning. And I've noticed that as long as I have at least one slice a day, I feel okay. It's best if I have 2 slices, like one for breakfast, one for lunch. Even if I'm not hungry, it's not that I'm eating it for food or because I'm hungry. It's because my body demands it. So josephkitchen.com, they can point you to get the right wheat, all the wherewithal you need to make bread. 1 loaf cut into 14 slices. If you eat 2 slices a day, I find that about 1 loaf feeds 1 person per week. 1 slice breakfast, 1 slice dinner, better nutrition, long storage life, some 3,000 years, 10 minutes to make bread machine. The weakness is the electricity, but if you go to josephkitchen.com, they can show you how to solve all of those problems.